this podcast, we will be looking at storytellers, stories, and the reasons that oral storytelling is important in our world today. You would think with all the technology we have available that stories do not have a place anymore, but they are needed more than ever. For in storytelling is where we find truth, we find reality, and we find the heart of what it is to be human. Welcome to the heart of storytelling. My name is Alyssa Curtain, and let's go on an adventure. Welcome to this week's episode. This week I'm speaking with Devi Palanisamy, who is in Victoria. Dee has given me plenty of things to think about in her interview this week. I first met Dee online as we had a lot of mutual friends, and then finally got to meet her in August at the Australian Fairy Tale Society conference in Melbourne. So it was really great to meet a Facebook friend who's been I've been watching for a little while. So here is the interview with Dee. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to this week's episode. This week we're speaking with Devi Palanisamy, who is in Victoria, and I'd love to hear how you got your start in storytelling.
So hi, thank you for having me here today. Well, I originally was born in Singapore, and my background is in theatre and speech and drama. So, being a young early childhood teacher, stories were always part of my life. And then I think I was pregnant with my second son, and I was on that little maternity period. And then this advertisement for Storytelling 101 happened, and I was like, oh, what's this about? So I kind of rocked up for this short program, and it was all about storytelling. It wasn't just about reading a book or just me telling a story with the kids. This is really like a different art form. And I think what was so interesting was that I found out that people got paid to do this as a living. And I was like, I was maybe 28 at that time. And I was like, oh, I could do this for the rest of my life. And so I was kind of like within the community in Singapore. And then when I moved to Melbourne, the storytelling community in Melbourne was so encouraging and warm. And, this is home now. And I've just found myself very happy nested in the wider storytelling community as well. And I love stories and I love listening to stories. So this feels like home.
Oh, amazing. And you're the secretary of the Australian Storytellers?
At the moment, yes, I am the current secretary for the Australian Storytelling Guild. And yeah, it's been great working with the organization and just being able to do things here. I think that's been such a relief. And with COVID, a lot of things have happened. Previously, we used to be able to go into schools to doing storytelling incursions. And I find that I think after COVID, it has been a little bit more difficult here. And so things have gone online. And I'm learning how to navigate this online space because this is not something that I really enjoy. But I feel like I need to be able to do this to continue doing what I love to do. So yeah, I'm learning how to show up in digital spaces and tell stories here.
Amazing. And so if you were to pick the type of storytelling that you do, how would you describe it?
So I think I do have quite a wide repertoire of stories that I can tell, right? With the school that I was working with in Singapore, I used to do play groups for babies, like 6 months, all the way to teenagers. And then I progressed to teaching adults to do storytelling and speech and drama for other people. So I think I've got this experience of like really wide. But if you ask me what kind of stories that I really love telling, I love telling stories that are from India. I think it's such an honor and a blessing to be able to share something that comes out of my culture. Recently, I've started really enjoying telling folktales from Singapore that are bilingual. Enjoy telling stories that have got a lot of sound and rhythm and percussion. And mind you, I put a disclaimer. I am not a trained musician. I do not know how to play any instruments. I play with my hands and my voice, and that's all I do. But I think there's such great joy in putting things together and sharing that love with the rest of the world.
Mm.
Anyone who would just hear me. So it's been
Yeah.
great.
So with the bilingual things, do you tell the like stories side by side or one and then the other? How do you do the bilingual?
So this is a little trick that I've kind of picked up along the way. And actually started during COVID. I did a program online that was done by Michael Harvey. And he was the one who introduced this idea of bilingual storytelling. And I thought, so my second language is Tamil. And I'm not proficiently, like, I've learned Tamil, I can speak it. But to do it as a performance, I've always felt that maybe I'm not that comfortable with that. And there are a lot of people, there are a lot of storytellers from India who would do pretty much more justice to the language than I could, right? But when I started crafting the stories bilingually, I found this happy medium where I could tell parts of the story in dialogue that doesn't affect the flow in English. So, people who would listen to the story in English will completely understand what I'm saying. But I find, like ways to include listening to Tamil and how maybe certain dialogues would be said, or I would kind of rephrase what I was saying in English, really like in a short paragraph or in a way that's a sing-song in Tamil. And that's been really fun. It's just all about playing.
Yeah. Sounds like, I mean, I can't speak another language, so I'm quite I'm fascinated with this idea of being able to be able to go between the two within a story. Yeah, rather than like a side by side parallel telling, you're mushing them together in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really, really great. So do you use props or anything else?
The only thing I do is music. Like I've got a whole heap of musical instruments. I've got a personal collection of puppets. And I used to do one during COVID. It was called Pattu Mami. It's a tiny little puppet of a lady dressed in a sari. And so she would come and do some folktales. And those I think they're still up on my Instagram or YouTube or something. It's up there. But I think there's just so many things you can do with storytelling. And sometimes I just would like to just do it like that. Like just me and you.
Yes.
And I've got a story to tell you. Would you like to listen to that? Like, I think there's some intimacy in breaking away from having so many things. Just, hey, like, come on over. I've got a story to tell you. Just the simplicity of it just makes me fall in love with it.
Beautiful. So do you have a process like in preparing your stories?
Oh, plenty. I do. I think like I am not a teller with a huge repertoire, right? I think there are lots of people who's got like they snap of a finger and they've got a folktale on every type, and I'm definitely not one of those storytellers yet, although that is what I would like to be at some point. But the stories that I have, they've just always spoken to me. And I always find myself like a conduit of stories. Like they come through me, and through me they appear in the world for somebody else. And my stories I always feel can help somebody feel better. They possibly could help entertain, educate, and inspire in some way. I think those are the three things that I've always like felt like this is what I would like to do. This is my calling. This is my purpose. Like telling stories is what I do. And in through this love that I have, if somebody else can feel a bit better, sure, why not? And so these stories that come, I work on them quite a bit. Like, and I've got a background in theater. So anything that I put forth, there is a lot of thought behind why I do this. Who is this for? so I can't actually tell the same story twice in exactly the same way, right?
Right.
It's just it happens. But it's always, driven by a really strong intention of who is this story for? Why am I telling it? And how do I want it to land on somebody? So, yeah, there's work that goes behind every single one of them. And it's a lot more work when it's a personal story.
Oh, you tell
That
some
was
personal stories too?
I do. I think especially being in Melbourne, personal storytelling is big here. And it's when I started telling personal stories, I was a little bit uncomfortable. I come from a culture where it's like, don't wash your dirty linen in public, and home stays at home. You don't share things about you that are personal, because sometimes, the message that you want to give, it lands differently, right? Like, and so I was like, oh, I don't know about doing personal storytelling, but it kept on happening. Like I kept on, colliding into this personal storytelling space here. And I was like, okay, let's just give it a shot. It keeps on coming up. And I usually tell a lot of stories about my mom. My mom's no longer with me. A lot of stories, they just were so joyful. So it was a great way to remember her, and it was a great way to honor her. And what started happening was that people in the audience would come up and say, "Thank you for telling that story. I didn't realize that, I needed to hear that." Or, "Thank you for sharing that." And I felt, okay, that's a different kind of response from what, I had maybe thought in my head, like, "Oh, why is she telling this?" Or, and then I started feeling a bit more safer in that storytelling spaces. And then I felt like, you know what? Some of the stories that are being told need to be told for a reason. And maybe if I looked at myself as an audience, I would have appreciated listening to some of these stories growing up. I'm 45 now. I've got 3 children. My daughter's 19. And so now I work very closely with a group called Generation Women Australia. It's a personal storytelling space for women. The shows happen in Sydney, Melbourne, and now they've opened up in Wollongong. And once a month, we go here in Brunswick here, and it's one theme. We have 6 storytellers, team 20, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and above. And they all speak about the same topic.
Wow.
And it is such an incredibly healing space. It's a space where, it's vulnerable, raw, organic. And I'm so grateful and blessed to be seeing every month the power of storytelling. And see people come in through this space and get transformed and walk out through that space. That's just amazing.
Sounds like an interesting sort of program.
It is. So it's actually their monthly shows. So the next time it plays in Sydney and Melbourne, do check it out. It's Generation Women Australia. And in Victoria itself, there's so many people who do so many things here as well. I've got a personal storytelling night that happens once a month down the road from me. And then there's Newport Storytellers, who does it online every third Friday. I think it was, every third Friday, once a month. There's a community of storytellers who do oral stories as well. So I think where I am, and not to mention, I'm also part of the Federation of Asian Storytellers, who does things like webinars and international conferences. And, so I think as a storyteller, where I am right now, I feel the most loved and most supported to be able to do what I really enjoy doing.
Amazing. And you're presenting at the Feast conference, aren't you?
Correct. So I'm doing, again, with the disclaimer that I am not a musician or trained percussionist of any sort. So I have this love for rhythm. I think maybe it was just the fact that I was born Indian or was raised. I just have this innate love for this, just the beat and the story that might be able to tell. And to use that to connect with another human being Let's play and find out. Like, so the workshop is just about percussion and involving different parts of percussions with your body and your hands and things around you. Just playing with rhythm and bringing that into storytelling.
Amazing. And have you presented there before?
At Feast. So I did a workshop on soundscapes last year in Jakarta. And this particular one, I kind of did something very similar to the one that I'm going to be presenting in Jakarta in the Sydney International Conference last year. So this is like a little, more specialized component of using percussion and beats. And I think sometimes with doing bilingual stories, music is a language by itself. And that's the way I see it. So, if you can't really speak a different language, we all speak the language of music.
Yes.
So it's a great way to use to connect with people at a really meaningful level. I think, and I've seen that in the work that I do. Like I walk into a session, and all I do is just start like creating a rhythm. And soon enough, everybody will follow.
It's pretty magic, isn't it, when they do? People jump on board.
It's magical, and all it takes is one. It starts with that one. And there's a great message there to be learned. Like it only takes one. And then it kind of it happens. And yeah, that's it. I love magic and I love stories, and I work with both.
And so who do you generally work with? What's your audiences usually?
In Melbourne right now, I can't really say. I would love to be doing more work with children, especially teenagers. I think that's where I really enjoy. They're not very used to this idea of, what stories? What are you talking about? And then after like a 90-minute session, they're like, oh my God, that was fun.
Yeah.
Right. I love that. And I think that's so important for children in that group. However, at the moment, my audiences are mostly adults. So I am definitely working my way back into like a school setting audience. Yeah, it's happening. It will. So let's see. And then once in a while, I get invited. Like I've just been invited to do like some Diwali or Deepavali stories for the Festival of Lights. So I'm a freelancer. So I'll stories wherever they'll have me, whenever they'll have me, to whoever they will have me. That's it.
So your work that you do, like, do you have paid work as well? Other paid work? Yeah. So does that have anything to do with the other work that you do?
Yeah, I always find a way in. So the other, I don't really have a 9 to 5. So as I said, I'm a freelancer. And a lot of my work entails storytelling. The one other thing I do is I facilitate a group of migrant women and do some communication work with them. And I think all communication work, it's mindset. And what best way to transform mindset with stories? So I usually go in, I'll set it up in a particular way, and I work with a group called Sister Works here. And they're an organization that help migrant women find work. So they put them through a job ready program, and I'm specialized to do their communication and confidence component. And so again, it's like, what better way to help build confidence and communication in this short time possible than through stories? And now I've been working with this organization for about 2 years now. And I can tell you without fail that every group of women I have worked with have always enjoyed the stories and have always come and told me, you know what, I didn't think about that before. So thank you for sharing that story. And with a mix of personal storytelling, with my own experiences. I do it with folktales, with oral folktales that I share with them. And it's so delightful because some of them, they come from Afghanistan, or they come from different parts of the world, and their English isn't, all that great. And here I am telling, look, we've got the same thing. Just because you may think my English is better, it doesn't mean that it's easy in Australia.
Mm.
I struggle with that too. With the accent, with different words, it's relearning everything. And there's so many stories that kind of help everyone, including myself. With stories of resilience, stories of hanging in there, stories of just come on, let's do it. I think these stories have not only to help others, but it's also helped me as a person grow. And that's it. If I feel like this is something that has done so much for me, give it a shot. Like kind of have like when you have like, I don't know whether you guys have experiences of like older aunts in your house when they have like a herbal remedy and then they'll be like, oh, try this is really good for you. You've got a stuffy nose, like why don't you put some ginger and some water and feel better. This is it. This is my herbal remedy. Listen to more stories, you'll feel better.
Yeah. And so do people come back, like after you've done work with them? Do they often come back, or have you found people discover story on their own? What's the longer term?
Well, because I'm not the person who's running this business, right? I'm working for somebody else.
Yeah.
I think the relationship after my role as a trainer or facilitator in that space kind of ends after I finish that work. People come back and again just connect with me as a person. But I've noticed that every time I've done community telling, I've done storytelling for community in Melbourne. And I work quite closely with like the Singaporean community or the Malaysian community. And now I think a lot of Indian communities as well that are, coming up and wanting to work together. They want somebody to come in and, bring a breath of fresh air with storytelling. A lot of people don't know what it is. There isn't a great awareness. So when I tell people, oh, I'm a storyteller, they're like, what? What do you do? What do you do really? So they just can't grasp this concept like, yes, this is me. I'm a storyteller. I get paid to tell stories. It's this idea that, that's like, I find I have to repeat myself quite a bit. So you do what? You what kind of stories do you tell? Like, and I get it all the time. Like I get teased by it. Like, oh, she just mouths off. She's making money mouthing off. Or, it's like oh, she's just good with what she words. And I'm like, actually, no, it's actually a really cool art form. And eventually I hope, this is my goal, that at some point of time, somehow, somewhere, somehow, there's a little space here that people can come and learn this art form in its like authentic way, and share it and spread it around the world. I mean, that would be pretty cool.
It would be pretty cool. I mean, Scotland's got a really great storytelling centre and culture, so something like that would be incredible to have set up here. Something, just really value it. And they have an apprenticeship model over there as well. So
I know. I've been wanting to talk to you about it ever since I found out.
So just so many good things out there in the world. I think once we open the door to storytelling, the whole world, it's huge. There's a lot of people, like the Oxford Storytelling Festival was on recently, and there's so many different events, and Fest has a conference and Feast has a conference, and like so many great things that are on once you tap into that network. I think it's just really cool. Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing, right? So when I first came here, I mean, I was telling stories and I was just within my tiny little bubble. And this is where I go, I tell my stories, I come back home, and I've got 3 children, manage the home, fitting in, doing the washing, cooking. And I felt, there's so much of time got wasted, because there was so many things that could have been done at that time. And I think especially being in Australia, it's so easy to slip into these little pockets of like, this is it. And it's so important to get to know what's happening just within Australia even. We've got a great team here actually. Like, this is what I found out like very recently. There's so many amazing Australian storytellers that I didn't even know. And that's really because we don't have this culture of let's get together, let's do something, or let's combine I find, and I'm guilty as charged as well. It's just like I go and do my thing, I come back, and life takes over. But then when I start thinking about what do I want to do, like 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I realized how important it is to build these connections right now. And this is storytelling, like, for the same as the theme this year, right? It's storytelling is, and it really, really is. It's as long as we actively and create that intention to build those bridges, I think our stories will take us wherever we need to go.
Great. And I guess in Australia, we do have geographical challenges as well, because everything's so far away from each other. And then, of course, there's New Zealand, which is not too far away either. And, tapping into the talent that will be over there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I've got a big question for you. The podcast is called The Heart of Storytelling. What do you think is at the heart of storytelling, and why we need stories in the oral tradition today?
Oh, big question indeed. And honestly, I think in the heart of storytelling, there's people. And I think that's how stories started. It started as survival. It started as love. It started with the love of wanting to share something, right? Like, I grew up with a lot of stories being told about, oh, this happened, that happened in Indian culture, or especially in my family. Maybe I won't generalize it grossly like that. But especially in my family growing up, the stories would land like as gossip. Right? You know what happened in this person's house? But they were all stories. And they were stories in the intention of sharing family values. They were told in the intention of spreading love and family and care and concern. And they were told in the intention of caution. Be careful, don't do that, like the little bit, be careful. And I think in the center of all storytelling is people. It is on both sides. I don't see it. There isn't a separate thing. I think the teller, the audience, and the story is the most important thing in it. And in the heart of all of that is that intention that it's a gift. And I've got that somewhere. I think it's either on my WhatsApp or somewhere. It says, stories are the gift that keeps giving. That's the only gift that you can actually keep giving people. And I'm a firm believer of that. I could buy you something. I could say, hey, let's go have coffee, and it's going to be done. But if I tell you a story, that's the biggest gift that I could give you or you could give me. And in the wisest words of I forgot what is his name. It's from the Kung Fu Panda, the tortoise, the turtle, Master Ku. Oh, I can't remember his name right, but he says this: yesterday was a mystery, tomorrow is history, but today is a gift, and that's why we call it the presence. And I think that's it. If you think about wordplay and play of words, if today is presents, then what is the biggest gift I can gift you right now? Like if you said, Hadi, we've got 2 minutes, I've got a gift. I need a gift from you. I can't go and buy you something. I can't pull something. I can't give you a hug. You're too far away. I can't share coffee with you, but I can tell you a story,
Mm.
and I think that's it's the most underestimated and undiscovered superpower of mankind.
Mm. And there's a reciprocal gift in listening as well. So there's both. Yeah, absolutely both.
I love listening way more than I love telling. I love listening to stories. So
Mm. And so you've done a bit of overseas work, haven't you? So you've gone to the feast conferences.
I have.
Yeah.
And I have been to the Udaipur Storytelling Festival. That was the first one I did. That was in 2019. And then I've just done feast in it because my youngest is in primary 6.
Mm.
And so as much as I would love to be doing stories 24/7, there's still that responsibility of home and
Family, yeah.
family happens, and I do as much as I can. And I think right now, especially this year, I've been really blessed to be able to work with the communities here locally, and with Generation Women, and just to be able to, hey, come on, listen, I got a story to tell you. You ready to hear that? Like, it's
Yeah.
been wonderful.
Yeah, it sounds really, really great. I imagine you've got lots of great memories and moments that have been really special. Have you got any that you can think of right now? That's a good example of a special moment.
Within storytelling,
Yeah.
oh, so many, so many. I can tell you one that happened quite recently, actually. So as I said, I was working with the migrant women, and so their program is called the Job Ready program, right? So the component that I specifically work with them is confidence and communication. And I was telling them a story about this old woman who looks down and looks at everything like very begrudgingly. She comes out and she goes, "Oh, look at that person in my neighbor's house. Her house is dirty. Her walls are gray. Oh, her washing is, just this mindset of everything that is like negative, right? Just the way she looks at certain things is like, and it's so relatable because sometimes I'm like that. I'll go, oh, it's cold today, and oh, I need to do cooking. Oh, the laundry's gone up. It's so parallel. And then the folktale ends with, the next morning she wakes up and she walks down the stairs. She pours her tea, and she looks out the window and she goes, "Oh, what happened?" She rubs her eyes. Everything's clear. What happened? The walls are clear. The sheets are white. Even her children are not looking very ashy today. They look clean. What happened? And the husband goes, "Oh, honey, I wiped our windows." And I ended with this thing about it's really the lenses that we look at certain things that come out with how it appears to us. So if we can start changing which window we're looking at through, maybe we might see something differently. And that's one of my favorite stories because it's animated, it's cute, it's got humor in it. And I remember after, and I did this together with a personal story that I told about my migrant journey to Australia and how I hated it. And so it kind of wrote back on me being that person looking out, going, "Oh, this is terrible. I don't want to be here." And at the end of that 4-hour session, this young woman came up to me and she gave me a hug and she just started crying on my shoulder. And she said, "I didn't think I could think differently." Because I end up with that going, but you have the permission. You don't need anybody to tell you that, and if you do need, I'm going to be the one that says you have the permission to think differently. And I hope this story will help you do that. That was it. And to me, those are the most memorable times of my work, where it has created a shift in somebody's thinking. Or, I remember the time where I went into a school and I was given a class that was quite challenging. Like, I walked in and I knew that this wasn't going to be a class that's like, I'm ready to listen to a story, ma'am. Like, it wasn't going to be one of them, right? And it was definitely going to be a challenging class. So I went in, I did my thing, and this kid came up to me and after that, and he said, well, you got it. Like, I didn't think that it was going to be like this, but like that, Yes, it was like snaps to you too, because sometimes it lands in places that you don't think it would. And I've just learned to trust the story. I just do whatever my story tells me to do. It's like, let's just do it and let's find out what happens. And yeah, I think it's moments like that make it precious, that make it want me to do this again and again and again until the rest of my natural born life.
Amazing. So I imagine in your career you've learned a lot of different things about storytelling. Do you have any advice for other storytellers who might be just starting out and need, or advice that you would have liked to have had when you were starting out?
Be consistent. I think that was my be consistent and believe in the story. I think for more than one reasons in this journey of me being a storyteller, like I started dabbling in storytelling in 2008, right? So that's when I did this first program. And she was a storyteller from Singapore. Her name was Verena. And so I started this amazing art form, like in its oral tradition manner, right? Not like reading a book or just me sharing a story. This is really about telling a folktale. And I didn't trust it. I will admit that right now. I was a bit skeptical and I was like, I don't know. I mean, maybe this could be, this couldn't. I was interested. I was definitely keen. I was very curious, but I didn't trust it. So I did a lot of other things as well. I was dabbling in theater. I had my full-time job. And so I really missed a great window in time where people in the storytelling community were coming together and building these great networks and building this, this forward kind of what's going to happen in the future, right? And I kind of missed that wave because I just wasn't there. I wasn't consistent in my art form. And then when I moved to Melbourne, yes, it provided this safe space. And I think also because I do have a theater background, performance storytelling comes a little bit more easier for me. But that's not to say that, it's a big like, whoa, it's still a lot of work to do. But showing up, being consistent in showing up, that makes a great deal. I think there's a lot of, it's a work just like any other 9-to-5 work. I think people have this misconception of artists or performers, like as if it's any easier than doing an office work or teaching or being a lawyer or being a doctor. It actually isn't. I think it comes with its own set of challenges. And sometimes I've allowed myself to go, oh yeah, maybe what I'm doing is not a big deal. And I've allowed myself to feel that in the face of things that are happening in my personal life, and I've just gone, okay, that can wait. Or I don't have to work on that story today. Or, okay, I'll find the time to do it next week.
Mm.
And I think that is something that we need to do it with discipline and to be consistent. Be consistent. I cannot emphasize on that enough. It feels like I wasted a good 5-6 years of my own storytelling journey because of my own lack of being consistent. And trust it. Trust the process. I think when there is some sort of like, when if you are anything of like a spiritual person, they will say surrender. There is release that comes in surrendering. And I truly believe it's the same for storytelling. If we surrender and let that process take over, the stories will happen and there lies
That's a beautiful way to end our interview. There lies the magic. I love it. So Dee, thank you for your time. You've been really great. I've learned a lot from you today. Where can people find you if they want to find out more about you?
Okay. So, how I said about being consistent as a storyteller? I think another part of it is when you're a storyteller, you have to make sure that you brand yourself and market yourself because there's work in that too, right? And this is it. I could be a very fun storyteller, but if people don't know anything about me, it's just going to be a bit more difficult. Having said that, this year I've kind of started to work and rebranding my Instagram page. So I am on Instagram. It's called Delightful Tales. So it's Delightful Tales with another E.
Yeah.
So DELIGHTFUL Tales with D. And you could find it's the same thing on Facebook. And I'm here. I'm right here. You'll find me lots of ways to get hold of me now. Because I'm through the Australian Storytelling Guild. You can find me with anybody over with the Feast. I am working hard to be known within the wider community. So please get in touch with me and tell me stories. And I hope, and to stay connected in whichever digital form or otherwise as life will take us.
Oh, that's a great way to end. I really love that. Thank you so much, Dee, for your time today.
Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, that's our episode for today. I hope you've enjoyed learning about storytelling and folktale, fairytale, myth, legend, or personal tales, wonder tales, all sorts of stories, and the art of storytelling and why we really need to continue using it today. You can find more information about me at alissacurtain.com or at Alyssa Curtain Stories on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. I hope that you can find your heart in storytelling.